Good evening. This is the Affordable Housing Committee meeting of March 9th, 2022. We're meeting in the first floor conference room at Sullivan Independence Hall, as well as via Zoom. Thank you to those who were able to attend either in person or online. I believe we do have a quorum, Mr. Chair. We have, in addition to yourself, we have Janice, Gwen, Heather, and in the room we have Nina and Joanne. So that is a quorum, and I'll turn things over to you.
Good. Thank you, Mark. And good evening, everyone.
Can everyone hear Steve okay? Good.
So I'll acknowledge Herb and Bob and Jackie, who are guests. Because of the format, only the members we able to comment, ask questions. Others, because we're a small group, others may be allowed, but please raise your hand, and if we have an opportunity, we will call on you. Questions can, of course, be submitted via email to Mark or myself to be addressed after the meeting. This is our first meeting in person in a while. We did one in December, I think. For those in the room, we have chocolate from Fairfield's new chocolate company, Be Good Chocolate. You're very, very good.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
So we'll make sure that after Lent, Janice will be.
Excellent. I hear it's really good.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So, okay. So with that, I'd like to get the minutes from the February meeting approved. So could I get a motion, please? Motion. Joanne, and John second. Any comment, discussions, changes? If none, then we would vote to approve. I approve. Raise your hand. Say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Raise your hand. Any abstentions?
We're considering that unanimous. If
Yeah.
that's not the case, let me know.
Yeah. Yes, you are considered unanimous. Excuse me. So the first item is the update to the affordable housing plan. You should have received the updated executive summary and the full plan of both the black line, or I guess a clean, and a red line copy. And I'll ask you, Mark, how do you want to go through this portion of it?
You know, I hope everyone's feeling pretty good about the strategies that are outlined in the plan. We've gone through it quite a few times. We do have a workshop coming up on Monday with the Planning and Zoning Commission. The intent there is to kind of walk them through some of the strategies, particularly those that have implications from a land use perspective, where we're asking them to for some input, because they will be crucial to implementation of any of those recommendations. So I think it's reflective of our conversations to date. You know, this is by no means the final. We'll still have a chance to fine tune it. There's a number of areas that where we need to provide citations and links to different documents, but I just wanted to include a space here. We don't have Glenn, obviously. He's still on vacation, but he'll be with us on Monday. I didn't know if there's any other comments or observations, or
What time is it on Monday?
it's 7 o'clock.
Is it Zoom?
It's both. So we're hoping to meet mostly in person if you can. I know you have some work commitments you have to work around. We're trying to.
No,
Yeah,
Monday's usually fine. It's just that I get up at 3 in the morning and if it runs into midnight, I'm in trouble.
Well, we hope to keep this pretty tightly controlled in terms of the duration of the meeting.
Right.
But to the extent to
Where
which
is it?
it'll be over at the Fairfield Museum and History Center.
Oh, I've always wanted to go there.
So it'll be in the large room, and hopefully I can do the same thing in terms of Zoom there, because we do need to provide an option for the public to join us remotely. But I'm hopeful that we'll have many of us and Planning and Zoning Commission in the room.
Herb and Bob and Jackie, those guys can attend.
You can certainly attend. It's an open meeting, so you're more than welcome to come. I think the same rules kind of will apply, but certainly you can be in the room, and if there's an opportunity to provide, to open it up for comment, that would be at your and the chairman of the TP&Z's discretion. So
And that's a 2-hour session.
we've
Well, it says
scheduled 7 to 9, but we'll see how I mean, I would not expect it to go. I would not, me too. I would not expect it to go longer than 9. But I think, this is kind of our opportunity to get some feedback, some concrete feedback from planning and zoning.
So I think that that's a good opportunity for the Affordable Housing Committee to give more comments to ourselves, but also then to bounce off with TP&Z, rather than worry about getting all the comments tonight.
Yeah, I don't think, Monday night, I think what we want to do is focus on the strategies, particularly those that have a planning and zoning implication, and spend time going through that to make sure that we're not barking up the wrong tree, that they're at least open, receptive to the idea. Doesn't mean that they have to endorse it at that meeting, but certainly if there's something that they say, hey, this is, we don't understand, we don't agree with the direction you're heading, I think that would be helpful feedback. And I would prefer that we devote our time to having that discussion, substantive dialogue or conversation about the strategies, and then, we have time after that to kind of go through this with a fine tooth comb and say, take out the comma here and change this word there. Type thing.
On the executive summary, it's got the strategies, and there are goals that have numerical numbers that haven't been filled in.
Right.
Who's going to fill those in? Us, TP&Z, jointly?
I think there's an opportunity for us to, again, while we're there, assuming that they're in agreement with the overall strategy, to kind of get their sense as to what they think is realistic. But I think ultimately it will be up to us to determine what that goal should be. But I would take advantage of the opportunity to see if they have any thoughts with respect to it.
So I would ask the members to look at the strategies and to think about numerical goals, and then we can talk more about it on Monday.
What I did ask Glenn to do is prepare a presentation of some sort to just walk the commission and the committee to a lesser extent. It's all familiar to you, but for the commission members, it's probably not as familiar, although they have received a copy of the plan, and just walk them through the strategies, and hopefully at each point there'll be an opportunity for us to have some discussion about this. So that'll help guide. frame
And
the
Gwen is going to
conversation.
do that?
Glenn,
Glenn, oh, okay, yes.
did I say Glenn?
Yeah, well.
Not you, Gwen. Gwen's gonna lead this conversation.
So Mark, in the plan itself, there's one bit of data that I'm still mystifies me a bit. On page 7, it's the ranking of percentage of affordable housing units comparing Fairfield to towns of a similar size. And we are, out of the 11, we're at the bottom. And it just doesn't seem like we should be at the bottom. That Fairfield has been at this for a while. We were one of the first with an affordable housing plan. And I'm just surprised.
Well, I think one of the things, and I didn't bring that with me, but it's very instructive if you took a closer look at each community's inventory of affordable housing. There are a number of markers, criteria that are outside of the town's direct control. Chaffa-backed mortgages are a significant component. Tenant-based rental assistance are a significant component. And so communities that perhaps are a little less pricey from a housing perspective, may have more Chaffetz mortgages, or more opportunity to finance those. They may have a larger housing authority that has more tenant based assistance or housing choice vouchers at their disposal. And I will absolutely guarantee, if you look at some of these communities with higher percentages, a large percentage of those are assisted units, government assisted units. And it's very, again, I think, and I'll share this chart with you in terms of similarly sized communities. If you look at that, we stand out by the percentage of deed restricted units, which far and away outweigh any other community. So the thing that the town has the most control over, which is entering into a deed restriction, we outrank all these things.
So then how do we get that information out there?
Well, I had hoped that we could frame this, it's accurate, but I do think there's a story behind it. And I think it would be helpful to have that, share that information as well. So it doesn't, I don't want people to come away with this and thinking that we're not doing the things that we have within our control, we're doing. It's just that other communities from us have a head start in some areas because of just the way other factors, the stars align in their favor. So that bugs me. I also think, before this goes to print, we will make sure that this reflects the current statistics, because this is 2020, I believe, and 2021. Not that it changes the rankings, but we're at 2.86%. So, woo! But I do want to make sure we have the most recent data.
Good. I'm sure these other communities developed housing at a time also when there was more governmental money, HUD money, or the state money that is just not available anymore. And so it makes it much more difficult to build.
Well, I'm looking at these communities, and with the exception of Greenwich, most of these communities are different socioeconomically than Fairfield. They may be about the same number of housing units. Milford is close. Greenwich is obviously in a league of its own, but they have a fairly large housing authority that has a number of units under management. So there's a story behind it. I think we do need to share that so people don't get too discouraged.
Okay, good.
I will send that out.
So I don't know, Heather, Gwen, Janice, do you guys have any comments?
Not yet, no.
Okay,
Yep, nothing yet.
We're just making sure you're still awake.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you.
okay. The annual report and the RTM. The RTM itself was pretty quick and quiet. The committee was better. So we presented to the housing committee, or I was maybe the
The
combined
RTM in committee, so
Yeah.
it's the whole RTM.
Yeah. That was 2 weeks ago, and then last Monday was the RTM. And there really wasn't a whole lot of discussion, although there was one gentleman that said two things. One was that he was hoping that the trust fund would be a bit more active, although it takes time to be active. And secondly, that there might be dilapidated housing in town that we could look to work with.
Yeah, so the one comment was with respect to properties that have been cited for blight. And so I did, they asked, a member of the RTM asked if there was an opportunity to work with those property owners and see if there's either an opportunity to address the blight so that it's not a substandard condition, or whether they might present opportunities for redevelopment to create affordable housing units. And so I did collect from the blight committee the top offenders, if you will. And some have fairly substantial fines dating back a number of years. I did check also with the tax collector to see whether there was also any delinquencies that would magnify that that amount that's owed. And for the most part, there are some overlap that some of the properties that are on the blight list have also have taxes or sewer use fees in arrears, but they tend to be quite small. So by small, I mean less than $1,000. So the blight, in some cases, the blight fines, if you will, total on paper $75,000,
Wow.
which is almost hard to believe.
I've
It
ever seen
looks
blighted properties.
it looks like it's been like 4 years where they cite them, and so I don't know whether I should take that or whether all of us should take that seriously, because I have a feeling that when push comes to shove, that amount may get reduced, because you have to go through some due diligence and give people an opportunity to kind of defend themselves, and I don't know. It just struck me as a little bit outlandish, and the fact that it hasn't rectified itself. And the whole
What
point
time
of this is,
period do they have to rectify the situation?
well,
You know?
my understanding is it's cited, it's brought to their attention, they're given an opportunity to correct it. Then if it's not corrected, then they have a hearing. And if it's not corrected as a result of the hearing, then they can impose fines.
Fines. but
Those
then-
fines can
but it-
accumulate over
Right,
time.
but there's gotta be a drop-off point where,
Well, so apparently this stuff just keeps accruing until such time as, I don't know, it gets resolved or the property is sold, and those monies are then part of the sale.
I'm just curious, because one thing I hate is eminent domain, but I've seen that happen when the fees outweigh everything.
Yeah,
I hate
So I
eminent
don't-
domain unless it's,
I don't think we want to
That's
go
cool.
down that path.
no, I'm
My
just saying.
initial, and I haven't reached out to, there's 2 property owners that are, I guess, repeat offenders, if you will. And I will contact each of them personally and see, one, is there anything that we can do to assist them to address the conditions that gave rise to the blight complaint to begin with. And I have met with the blight committee and said, we have programs that if folks are claiming that they don't have the resources to correct it, we can assist them.
Right.
It's not free money in the sense that eventually at some point they have to pay it back, but we can help them cover those costs. And there's no interest associated with it either. So in that sense, it is free. So that would be number one, see if there's anything that we can do to assist them to correct the blight condition. And then number two, I guess, I certainly would be willing to have a conversation with them and say, hey, what's your long-term plan as it relates to the property? If you're interested in selling it, we would be interested in talking to you about it, assuming that there is some development potential to the site.
Yeah,
So I haven't done that yet, but I will reach out to the 2 individuals. I'm not expecting a positive response, but nothing ventured, nothing gained.
yeah, but you don't know, because
Right.
maybe they are at a point where they say, you know what, I gotta dump this, I gotta get rid of it, I can't do it anymore. So that's where you can step in and say, okay, we can help you.
At the very least, you would like to think that there's a way to correct the situation without it continuing to accumulate fines.
Right, I mean,
But I mean,
fines.
like, if we're,
Hell,
I know, like, if we're the Affordable Housing Committee, right? And if they don't have enough money, and that is the reason why they have neglected the properties the way that they have, isn't there a way for someone to help? I mean, I saw in the binder that there's like a lot of different things, like,
Yeah,
I had no idea that those things were available for people, like, so what if some of these residents aren't aware of the things that are available to them if they have low income.
I think that's a fair conclusion, you know.
I mean,
no
I don't
matter-
know who they are or anything like that,
Well,
but
I mean,
think
that's
it
why the
should be-
programs do exist but, you know, no matter how many times I meet with the Blight Committee to say, hey, you know, we have these programs, here's a couple brochures, you should.
And they're the ones who should be asking.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
no, I
exactly.
think-
My thought is, since they're bringing them in for a hearing, and if the people are saying, I would love to do this, but I don't have the money to do it.
Yeah,
Here's a brochure, call Mark, you know, here's a program that we have. So
And
we do
many
have
times-
programs.
Many times these people don't know how to get through the the town
I
website.
agree, yeah.
no, it is,
Cause I
yeah.
talked to people about that and they're saying, well, I never heard about that. I said, well, you can go right here. Well, I don't know how to get there.
Yep.
So we have to make it easier for people to access what we do have.
Just be, you know, you could. we
What I
it-
do is
we
I go in and I-
We do outreach all the time and routinely we hear, well, I never knew about the program before, and it doesn't. That, we just need to keep, you know, spreading the word, so, and if you're not in need of those services now, it probably goes in one ear and out the other, you know, it's not.
Right.
Not something I'm really focused on, but if I need it at that time, you know, hopefully something will resonate,
But you
but
know, this is something, if we did something like these,
that's exactly what we had, and that's what. I
Because
said,
he gives
like-
them out to people.
but I'm saying that we could send out.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? You send it out with the newsletter, you send it out with something.
Yep.
So people understand what we have rather than them having to come and ask for it.
I agree,
The blight guy who sends out the violation, why can't he include?
that's
the-
why I gave them extra copies,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
Yep,
So are
so
we
we
talking
have
about
things
homes
that-
or
I mean,
these
we were talking of, these are individual homes,
Yeah.
so, you know, they might be on a lot that could support a duplex, but, you know, you don't want somebody because of a blight lien to
No, it's
lose
their
their
home,
property.
yeah.
Yeah.
If they
And
wanna-
if it's like, okay, so if I, for some reason, right, Fairfield, yes, it's expensive, you know, sort of expensive, and something happened, someone lost a job, one of the people who lived in the house, so like all of those things take into consideration of like what is happening, right? What do you have to pay? Someone got sick, do you have to pay for all of this? And then all of a sudden you find yourself in a situation that now you have like concerns and
Yeah,
your home
Exactly.
become, right? So I think that it wouldn't be fair for us to be like, oh, let's buy your house. 'cause
yeah,
we
we're not
can't take
like
care of it.
vultures, like.
Yeah,
looking for
like that, I
somebody
just
to-
think
yeah.
it feels
Right.
wrong.
Those pamphlets could go in when the tax things go out.
Yeah, we'll have to weigh the
I mean,
cost,
you-
but,
Why? They go in the same envelope.
well, you know, I don't
Would it
know,
be
somebody
like-
has to stuff the envelope, so
Well-
there's an automated
And the
thing
friend.
to it.
Well,
I would-
can we,
Either way, we can put out, but again,
can
my
we
point
target like
is,
certain places, right?
Yeah.
So it's not all of Fairfield. So it's not
no,
like
for
every-
example, a lot of these folks tend to be seniors, so.
Yeah, yeah.
So we do programs every year at the senior center and we meet with
Yeah.
the senior services director and, you know, we do include information in the senior newsletter and, you know, if they apply for senior tax release, we give them the information there, but my point is, most of us are no different. If we're
Oh,
not,
no, yeah. I
we're
don't
not
need it.
ready
I
to
don't
get the
pay attention to it,
information,
yeah.
we're just not gonna be paying attention.
You
to
go to
it.
Stop and Shop and put some in their thing.
There's a lot of things.
They have a
we
bulletin, no, I'm serious, they
like
have
the
a
idea
bulletin
of
board for that.
Getting them some assistance, it cleans up the blight
Yeah,
and it
that's
maintains their
exactly
homes.
what the whole plan is, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
so.
So we have a program, I will reach out to them, and
Okay.
if they're like, well, you know, I'm ready to move on, I don't really need this property anymore, then we can have a
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah.
right? So-
But the
I just-
upshot is that there are not enough properties to make a dent in the
No,
affordable
but
housing.
it's like, there's like 3 or 4 properties that are in this category.
And
So
they're not
it's-
sitting on 10 acres.
No, they're
Yeah,
not.
and then the other thing is that we have these like 101 units, you know, 90 units, and there's only like 9 or 10, right? That doesn't help either.
Well, it's better than 0, which is
It
where we
is, it
started.
is.
Yeah,
Well, no, it is,
Yeah.
but like, why build some,
So one of the strategies that we have in our plan is to, instead of 10%, ask for 15%,
Yeah.
20%.
Yeah.
So obviously they get to.
That's where why we're trying to revamp 8-30G so that we can incorporate all that into it and bring up the amount.
Yeah, you
Because I
can't,
think it's ridiculous that if someone says, I'm gonna build this,
Right,
and
well,
only gonna
that's why
be
the
10,
people
like-
are always complaining about it and
That's not-
not wanting them because they're
but,
really,
you know,
isn't
I will
that
say,
huge
when we
amount.
started, what gave rise to that strategy to begin with was when we had a 7-unit development that didn't produce any.
Yes.
And
right,
we were saying, geez, this is a missed opportunity, at least ask for 10%.
Yeah.
Because we'd at least get 7 units, which is better than 0. So that's how we started.
That was it.
And we started in a little area and then we made it town-wide, and now we need to, tweak it again. The one thing we don't want to do though is then push people to the point where, oh, it's, I'm not gonna make enough money on this, I'm just gonna go 8-30G. Because then that defeats the purpose too. So we want to make it attractive that people do the investment, do the development. We want to get some public benefit because they've got a lot, they're selling or they're renting a lot of these $3,000 a month, $3,500 a month rental apartments. So they're making a nice profit. We just want them to give back something in return, to do some affordable housing at the same time. So we have to calibrate that. The consultant that looked at, the TOD plan said 15% was too high. I pushed him on that. He said he made it 12. I still think it should be at least 15, if not 20. So we do have it in our plan, 15 to 20. Let's see where we end up. But we may have to do a little bit more.
what's
analysis.
the average around the state of what people are asking for?
What's that?
What is the average around the state? that
Well,
people are
again,
asking for?
Outside of Fairfield County, I don't know too many places that do have inclusionary zoning provisions that provide any.
I don't know any.
So it's
No,
really Norwalk, Stanford, Darien, New Canaan, and us. I think that's it. And I think we're in the ballpark. And Stanford and Norwalk allow for people to pay a fee in lieu of,
Yeah.
which we didn't want to do because we wanted to provide opportunities to create affordable units wherever they may be located in town. So we didn't want it to be, anything in Southport, somebody would buy themselves out, or Greenfield Village buy themselves out. So we wanted to, if they're going to develop someplace, they have to create the unit there. That was the thought behind it. So we may need to have somebody take a finer, look at it more closely to make sure, again, we're calibrating this, that the developer will still make a profit, because that's the way the world works. They have to make profit. But we don't want them to make a nice profit, not a huge profit. So we need to calibrate that, but we need to do it in a way that we don't incentivize people to go the 8-30G route. So hopefully we want them to make more money this way than the 8-30G.
Okay. So that was really all on the annual report. So let's move into old business and updates.
Yeah, I just I provided this to our delegation, and I will send this out to all of you. I apologize. I don't have the ability to screen share here this, but so what I'm distributing is it's a list of every set aside development application on which the Planning and Zoning Commission has rendered a decision. And there have been 22 applications have decided to date. And of those, I believe, I did the calculations before, I'm not going to count them, but there were 15 that were approved. Of the ones that were denied, there were 2 that were approved subsequently. As a condition, they were approved after the fact as a settlement. There were 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm sorry, there were 3 that were denied but later approved. as part of the settlement, and there were 4 that were denied that were either withdrawn or upheld on appeal. So that's not a bad track record. Of the 15 applications that were approved, 6 have been built, and those are all bold face type. And you'll see it certainly, if you look at the number of applications and the dates on which they were decided, it's accelerated. So there's a lot more applications in the last 5 years than the first 5 years. But I think it was instructive. The planning and zoning had provided a list of all those that were approved. And I supplemented because I wanted to get a comprehensive list to look at, the outcome of each of the decisions. But I'll make sure I distribute this, and then I included the inclusionary provisions, the inclusionary use as well.
Mark, do you have any idea why, if you look at the list, there was only one project proposed prior to 2012,
Yep.
and the law's been in effect for 30 years or something? It just doesn't seem to make any sense.
Yeah, I don't know what, for a lot of communities, 830G hasn't been an issue. They haven't seen a lot of activities, and that was true for Fairfield until relatively recently. 2012 was really the beginning of pretty contentious set-aside applications under 830G. The 2 that were on Homeland Street were particularly obnoxious because it was really an owner of a property that was looking to subdivide the lot. It was a non-conforming lot. And when he wasn't getting his way, even though he was told you should go to the zoning board of appeals and request the variance, he wanted the planning and zoning commission to do that. And they said, well, we can't. It's non-conforming. And so out of pique, or out of spite, he filed not 1, but 2 830G applications, which got the neighborhood all riled up. And in the end, he ended up going to getting his variance grant and got what he needed, but it was very controversial. And then we had the Canfield Drive and Fairchild Avenue and Berwick Court developments as well, which also were pretty controversial.
Was 2008 last big downturn?
Yeah.
So that may have something to do with it.
Mark, you don't have to send them this, I just did it.
Oh, thank you. You took a picture and sent it. I'll make sure everyone gets a clean copy. Thank you.
Joanne.
A clean copy.
Okay.
I think that it could also be that some developers weren't 100% like aware of it, right? If it's controversial, it's in the news, other people are like, hey, let me try and do that.
I think that's certainly true as of late. It is caught on, if you will, and developers have figured out that this is a way that they can, circumvent zoning, get projects approved and get make money.
Yeah.
So there's no question that that's true.
That's happening.
And this bears it out. So
Yeah.
I thought it was helpful. I don't think we're leading the state in terms of number of applications, but we're pretty close. 22 applications in a 10-year span is pretty good.
Who's come anywhere near 22?
Well, I'm told Milford is pretty high too, but I don't know that. And part of my issue with there is no comprehensive database here, and so it's really hard to assess the impact of the law and how impactful it's been, both from a positive from the standpoint of creating affordable units as well as the negative implications of it. And so I did it kind of as an exercise to see how many we've actually had, what our track record has been. So
We had a member of the Affordable Housing Committee that runs the department in Milford, didn't we?
Yes.
Sheila,
Sheila.
Sheila.
So I'll ask Sheila. She's happy.
or maybe we set the record. I don't know.
I think
It's a dubious distinction. I'm not sure. But-
feels like we set the record.
You can
anyway.
add it in here.
Yeah.
We set the
So-
record.
Yeah, so with respect to current ones, I'm sure all of you, and I know,
You want to
You- you-
distribute your.
yeah, I think this is going out too, but I'll let Joanne take a picture.
Another one coming, ladies.
All right, thank you.
Sorry, we're still getting technologically, we're deficient here, so.
No, that's about, they're not here.
Okay, this works.
So 4480, I know many of you have been exchanging the patch articles. There was conversation about, Aquarian having concerns about the impact to the watershed. This is presently before the Inland Wetlands Commission. It's a terrible application. But, it's before them. I'm sure that they'll deliberate with respect to that application, but that's where that stands. 26 Beacon Square, I wasn't at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting last, I don't know if you.
No, I gotta talk to Paula, she was there.
But I don't think they concluded a public hearing, I would be surprised.
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine.
So
they
it's
did.
presently before Planning and Zoning. The other one of note that I'll call out is 4185 Black Rock Turnpike, which was the former plant factory nursery site across from the Hotel Hi-Ho. That was initially approved for a 25,000 square foot medical office building, never built. The developer owner of the property subsequently came back and applied for and received approval for a 94 unit set aside development, which was appealed by the Mayor Conservancy and other parties. Subsequently, the developer has come back.
With 100 units.
It was 94. There's another one on that's 100, but this was 94. Subsequently, the developer came back and asked for a approval of the facade for the medical office building, which the Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously granted. So I believe after all this, we're gonna build a medical office building on that site. So.
We don't have enough of
Well, we got them all over, so, but which would you prefer, a relatively low story medical office building or
Well,
a
yeah,
5-story?
but then that 100 unit one is, even Aquarian is,
That's 150 units.
that they're even against it because of the ramifications as far as the drainage and everything.
It's a tough site.
Yeah,
There's
it's on a,
They would have to really cut into a mountain.
yeah,
That is just unusable, and I can't believe it's even gotten this far. I mean, when Aquarian comes out and speaks against it, I mean, that's extraordinarily telling.
Well, hopefully that will provide some basis for the commission then to make an appropriate decision with respect to it.
and I mean, did you read the article from Aquarian?
I've looked at the application, saw the letter.
They had it in the paper and when they actually come out in the papers and speak against something, you know that there's gonna be a problem there,
Yeah.
you know?
So that's the latest in terms of set aside development applications. Hopefully for the time being.
When are you projecting we're gonna get to the moratorium numbers?
Well, we need one more project to be completed in addition to the two that are under construction, which are quite small.
Mhm.
Umpqua and Black Rock Turnpike won't be enough on their own, so we need a third project, which could be the Park Avenue one. Next to Sacred Heart, so
Right.
that would yield 70 points, which would probably put us over the.
But you're
over the
talking
top.
2 years then.
Depending on when they start construction, whenever they start construction, it's at least, 12 to 18 months, I would guess. They could go gangbusters, but still probably 18 months out. So,
Parkview Commons,
what's that?
is it the Parkview Commons?
Parkview Commons
talking about?
is ours. No, the
Oh.
one on Park Avenue across from, next to Sacred Heart, right at the exit or entrance to the Merritt Parkway.
Yeah,
There was a.
At the
a project
roundabout?
that was- Yeah, the
Yeah.
project was approved there.
Oh, the 100
Yeah.
units.
100
but
units.
how long have they been,
They just were-
what's the timeframe?
They were just approved. I didn't talk to the developer, but planning and zoning did, and they're moving pretty quickly. They're trying to get it. And he understands, actually, the primary developer lives in town, and he actually, when he heard that this could put us over the top, he was looking to move aggressively to do the project.
Who's the primary developer?
Well, now it's Art Hirsch.
Oh,
So it wasn't initially, but he purchased the development rights.
Mm.
And he's interested in developing it. Maybe, for the capitalistic reason, he's gonna make money, but he also was interested because it would put us over the top, so. That's the parent.
okay. Because one of the goals on the executive summary was to get the moratorium within 5 years.
Oh.
And that to me seemed like too long a period. We should be saying within 3 years or within 2 years.
Well, I love, sooner the better, but I always say, under promise and over deliver, so.
Yeah. Yes,
I think I can
I
do
hear
that.
you. Okay. The trust fund,
We are now at $151,000, an increase of $23,000 over the prior month. So there's nothing on the immediate horizon, but we'll hopefully continue to build that back, and so we'll be in a position when next opportunity presents itself to use it for good.
Mark, did you ever look at that link I sent you
Which one? Which one?
for the grants?
Yes.
Did you see the one for affordable housing? Has to be in by March 31st.
Well, we have a grant writer now,
Yeah.
so I'll send it over to her.
Yeah,
Which one is it though?
I'll send it
Is
to
it
you.
the
I have to pull it
It's,
up again.
I think it's one we've talked about. maybe.
no, HTCC
That
is
is
June.
it.
No,
Oh, okay.
not
Maybe
at
it's-
all.
Yeah.
It's a whole different, they're private foundation grants, Steve.
Yeah.
And these private foundations offer these grants every year with a drop dead date of whatever, and they only go to certain areas of the country. There's actually one that
Are we
Connecticut is eligible to apply for.
Okay, well, I'll take another look at that.
Okay. I'll send you,
sent
you
You
that.
sent me your login.
I even
credentials,
sent
which
you
I
the
don't want.
login.
I don't want your login.
No, but
credentials.
then you get a better thing, because I've been a member of it for years. Okay,
Send it to me too, if you could, please.
thank you. You
Well,
really have to,
Steve will be
you
betting.
really have to look and see what's available by state, county,
Mhm.
and everything, but I'll tell you. The police department gets them from there, everything, it's a good thing to look at. So if we can get that grant, it would be great.
Okay. All right, a few comments.
We're holding on Parkview comments at the moment. We do have, I have a draft RFQ to identify a development partner for it. We have the 4 lots that we control, 3 of which are currently occupied by tenants who are paying, holdover tenants are paying us rent. 1 is about to vacate the premises this month, just purchased a house, new house, so we'll get that back. And so, ideally, I would have another property next to the 2. I did talk to the 2 other property owners that are right next door. They're interested in selling, but they're not quite ready timing wise, but I think probably within the next 6 months to year. I wasn't pushing it because we only have $150,000 in the fund. Plus, I didn't really want to dip into the money that we borrowed or have borrowing capacity to utilize if we don't have to. So I really wanted to see how 244 Greenfield Street would go. So I did put that in. We did get that through purchasing, put out an RFQ. The deadline for questions from potential bidders has passed. And the delivery date is March 17th.
Wait. The RFQ's been submitted, it's out?
It's out. And I sent it to your guy. I sent it to the Housing, Connecticut Housing Partners, and I sent it to Habitat for Humanity of Coastal Fairfield.
And they got it 8 days to get it back?
No, they've had it for several weeks.
No, but it's due.
It's due on the 17th, yes. All it is it's a request for qualifications which says, tell us about your development firm and what you envision for this site. And then we have to evaluate those submissions and then pick a development partner that we would then negotiate a development agreement. And then proceed with essentially what we're providing is the land. We're offering to assist them in securing the necessary permitting, waive building permits and other fees. But everything else, they need to bring equity to the table in terms of the actual development, construction, architectural plans, all that, as well as overseeing construction and the sale of units.
And if a not-for-profit, how could they get involved?
I've already sent it to non-profits.
Paul Harris, do you send it to Paul
Oh, I
Harris?
just sent it to Paul Harris, so I guess he's full profits.
Okay. Because the HTCC grant is only for not-for-profits, 500,000. Maybe we could even get 1 million.
If they come and they bring all the money to the table, I don't care where they get the money, as long as they're not asking me for more money, right?
Well, I'm just trying to figure out the calendar, because if it's got to be submitted to CHAFA or DOH by June, and this is March, you're gonna make a decision on the developer by,
Well, we can move pretty quickly to select the developer, I think. The issue would then be negotiating a development agreement that would spell out in a contract who's doing what and what's the sequence of that. Now, I have a draft of that from before, but it hasn't gone through the town attorney nor whoever that developer's legal counsel. So get lawyers involved. I'm sure it'll take a little bit of time. And then I'm not even 100% sure of what my approval process is here, whether that is simply a board of selectmen executive function, or it has to go back to the full RTM. So if it has to go back to the full RTM, that adds more time. So I'm hoping it's an executive.
two-family developments, 4 units, 4 for sale or 2 for sale?
So what we said was, we think it can be developed for 2 duplex units.
Mhm.
We would prefer for sale. The town will retain title to the underlying property, but will ground lease it to you for $1 a year for 99 years in perpetuity, essentially. But we were open to other development scenarios. So if you have a better mousetrap, let us know. And so, maybe I just had a conversation with the planning and zoning staff today and saying, geez, it's kind of a shame if we have this opportunity just to get, 2 or 4 units, maybe we can do 6. And it's like, well, you can't really do 6 under your current zoning regulations. So, we have to be able to finagle that a little way. But I'm happy that they're thinking along those lines. We don't get too many of these opportunities as a way to maximize this without unduly burdening the neighborhood. We have to do it in a way that's that looks and fits into the neighborhood. So I think you can do it, but so we'll see what people come back with. But we left the door open. So we said, we think it works for 4 units, 2 duplexes. You do your own due diligence. We're not representing anything. Here's the parcel. Here's the land use regulations. But if you have a different idea, we're all yours.
So there's a certain parcel, a certain amount of land that we bought, and then the park,
Yep.
can that be expanded? Can we go
Well, the
back to
problem is
park?
it goes back, so it's a rear lot. So I don't think that works too well unless, and again,
We
we
can create it
we didn't-
architecturally.
I think you could get creative architecturally.
Yeah.
I mean, part of it is our zoning regulations require 60 feet of frontage on the road. Do you need 60 feet? I don't know.
Depends on if you have families with kids.
But you
You
have
want
this
them
whole
on
rear
the-
lot, you got a
Right.
whole, you got plenty of places for kids to play, so I don't know about, can you work with 50 feet of frontage? That's what our regulations say 60, so
Why
that's
60? I don't understand that.
what our regulations say.
I
That's,
would
my
go with
point is, there might not be a good reason,
Right, right.
it's just the way.
But
it is.
somebody did that
Yeah.
at some point in time.
And
I mean, I'm
so,
sure there was a reason, right?
so I think what we have to look
Well,
at,
it was
also,
available
The
too.
horses, I don't know.
we just need to look at ultimately whether we think, it fits in. If it fits in, and it accomplishes their goal, then I think we should be open to it. That's all. So,
About as when you go along Oldfield and you're looking there, all those long,
skiing.
yeah, even down Reef Road.
Perpendicular. to the
Yeah.
road.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
can't possibly be 60 feet. On Reef Road.
It
But-
depends on the zone.
But they're built back. is the
Right, right.
point.
Oh.
Yeah.
Each zone has its own setback and street frontage and lot size
And how many
requirements,
zones do we have in Fairfield?
quite a few.
And a
Um,
few subzones under these.
Right. So anyway, by the next meeting, I should have a report back as to, the number of respondents and where we are in that process. And hopefully with one under our belt, we can then move forward with Parkview. It took me a little bit of time just to get it to purchasing. It took 6 to 8 weeks to get it to
Yeah.
purchase.
Can you send me a copy?
Yeah, I can send the link. So I'll
Okay.
send the link.
Thank you.
I have some bad news with regard to Bureau Street. At least at the moment, there is another party that has submitted a proposal, a bid to purchase 108 Bureau Street. And
St. Emery's?
St. Emery's and the church is pursuing that. Apparently it's more money. And so Carol said it's possible it could still come back to us because that may fall
Right.
apart as things do. But at the moment, the church is pursuing this other party and their
That's such a
higher
perfect
proposal,
location.
higher money proposal. Which is a shame
Yeah,
because we got the State Department of Housing Commissioner to commit $1.5 million to buy the property. So
we have
it's a
any other-
shame.
any other places in
We don't know anybody who knows the bishop and can lean on him a bit, huh? That just seems like to keep in, along with the church's overall philosophy, they ought to give it to the housing authority.
Well, they weren't giving it to him, they were selling it to him
Yeah.
for $1.5 million. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's, but, I don't know.
Have you
I don't
been
know.
over there?
Have I been over? Sure. It
It's such a great place to have
is, yeah,
housing.
yeah, especially with the proposal,
Yeah,
it was a kind of low rise type thing.
when
so
I was
think it
running
works
for
well.
office, that was one of my.
Well, if you know Father Sean, put in a good word.
Okay. That's pretty much everything. I did want to mention that Sullivan McKinney. It's really not on the market, but the Pilot House has a school for, is it?
Developmentally disabled.
Yeah.
young
And
adults.
their lease is up and it's being renewed. If it weren't renewed for some reason, then Sullivan McKinney thinks that they could use the property. Roll it into, produce 5 more units and renovate the rest of Sullivan McKinney, which is 30 years old, something like that.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Where is that located?
Sullivan McKinney is
Used to
off
be the
of
old,
Meadowbrook Road.
It's on Colony on the corner of Meadowbrook, Joanne. You literally could walk there.
I've only been here
So-
since 2014. I don't know all the.
Thank you,
names.
Heather.
So it's-
Sort of
Yeah,
people in my mind, but.
Oh, okay, I know where that is. Okay, yeah,
Grassmere?
yeah.
yeah. So is there a concern that the Pilot House is no longer going to be able to, and I'm sure they're renting that space for pennies on the dollar. But is there a concern that they're going to no longer be able to occupy that space?
Not that I've heard. I heard that the discussion was one that they had a lease and I think the intention is they'd like to renew the lease to continue to provide the services that they're offering. And there has been suggestions that there might be, you know, other uses for that space, so.
Yeah.
It's not, I'm not involved in it. I think there are other groups that are involved in
Where
it.
is the pilot house?
So it's in like the auditorium or something?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
kind of
so
the
it's
old-
part of
yeah.
that complex.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they do an amazing service, offer an amazing service for Fairfield for not only children with autism, but they've also expanded to kids who struggle with self-esteem and anxiety, and especially, you know, in this COVID world, they've really opened their doors to a lot of kids who perhaps pre-COVID wouldn't need a more structured environment, but because of everything that's happened. And their autism program, from what I understand of friends who've been in it, has been really amazing. They also have a farm on Merwins, I believe, and the pilot house is such an asset to Fairfield, and it's one of those hidden treasures that people don't even realize we have unless they have a specific need to know about it.
I know the farm and it's really cool. I didn't know it was attached to Pilot House, but they provide a really good service for the community. You know, one of the things that we're charged with is looking at town property and how it might be used for affordable housing. When you've got competing interests, both of which are good, but they've been there for 10 years, 15 years, something like that, you know. And so it's.
Oh, I have to probably, you know, more than that. And you're right. When you have programs that are both equally wonderful, but for a different subset. But the one thing, you know, that's important to note is that there is affordable housing throughout pockets of Fairfield where this is the only home for the pilot house. If that makes sense. And I would greatly struggle if there was a reason to no longer allow them to stay in the facility that they are in lieu of affordable housing, because you know what, we're putting affordable housing everywhere. It's in every nook and cranny we can fit it, where this is the only place these folks have, and the service that they are doing for our kids, that also kind of honestly takes the pressure off the schools a little bit, is invaluable.
Yep.
So at the moment, it's not before us. It's not an issue we need to weigh into. If the
Of course.
town decides that Pilot House won't be renewed, then, you know, then we could talk about it, but it's really not before us and it's not our decision at the moment.
Mark, how much unused property does Fairfield have that you could actually?
The town, you know, I think everything has a purpose, whether that purpose has, there's a continued need for that purpose
Right.
is the question. And I had suggested, not just to this first select woman, but her predecessor, you know, maybe it would make sense to have a group that looks at the inventory of town properties and does a holistic, you know, deep dive as to whether or not, you know, that property still needs to be used for X, Y, or Z.
Right.
And then based on that, we can then make some informed decisions. But, you know, everything it's set aside for open space or active recreation or a school, or it's leased to, you know, Pilot House or a daycare facility, or, you know, the senior centers there. But, you know, I brought up before the rec center on Mill Plain Road. You know, the town was in the process of acquiring the Turner Reserve Center for recreational purposes from the United States government, and we can only use it for recreational purposes. If the rec department were to relocate across from Gould Manor at the Turner Reserve Center, and maybe senior services were to be co-located with them, you know, it would free up properties that potentially could be used for some other purpose.
The reason I'm
So-
asking is like, Steve, you're in Westport.
Yeah.
You know the developments on Sasko Creek, the one on the post road, it used to be the old, what you call it, trailer park.
Yeah.
Well, the town owns that.
Mhm.
Okay, they also own Hales Court. So if we have town property like that, we could literally do I mean, we could
Well, I
actually
mean, I
get
can
to
s-
our moratorium and above.
I can,
we have
I
property like
can
that.
provide a list of town-owned property.
Right,
You know, but again, a lot of it's under, you know, there are other boards and commissions that have jurisdiction over these things, but.
you
know, to-
might
to
wanna
the
look at
point-
the amount of time that it's been sitting there and no one actually did anything.
Well, I mean, Greenfield Street, Greenfield Commons is a good example. So that
Right.
was a half acre that was former school and then became a pocket park that was vandalized and was not being used for the intended purpose. And at some point, I guess Parks and Rec said, hey, we don't really think this is a great pocket park any longer. What can we do? And we said, well, why don't we use it for provide senior housing?
Mhm.
And so, but before that, it was used for recreation. So
Right.
it's not to say that just because it's currently being used for that purpose doesn't mean long-term it has to
Long-term,
continue.
right. But there's gotta be, there's gotta be parcels of property in Fairfield where 10 years ago, somebody said, okay, I think we should use this for this.
Yep.
But it's never come to fruition, so that's probably where you wanna look first, is the back side of everything to see how long it's been sitting there that nobody came
Well,
up with a
I
use
mean,
for it.
We think it's sitting there, but
But I'm saying they
but I'm
would have
saying
to,
like
yeah.
conservation or, you know, land acquisition thinks of it as, you know, passive open space, you know, that's.
Well, you
so-
gotta have open space too, but I'm saying things that maybe they were planning on putting something over
Mhm.
here, but it never came to fruition, so we might be able to
I'm
do
just,
something
you
with
know,
it.
I think it makes sense for us to periodically look at the
Yeah.
entire inventory of town property and then, you know, it shouldn't be just this board, but
Right,
a group of boards get together and say, you know, are there anything that we're,
yeah,
that
you
we
just
own
kind
that
of
we
go
don't
through
need
it and say,
anymore, you
okay,
know?
what, thoughts
So
on
you'll
this?
get the list.
I can get a list.
Yeah.
I would be happy to provide to all of you, and then if you have, you can certainly look on the GIS and zoom into that and say, well, you know, drive up and take a look at it, so if you come up with ideas based on the list, yeah, let me know.
And what's happening to the Turner Armory site or whatever it's called?
I don't know, I keep asking that question. so.
What's that, the one near me, over on Gould?
Yep,
Yeah. You know, they've been working on that for 10 years, 15
Yeah.
years. I don't know.
Right,
Yeah.
but it was, when I first moved here in 2014, that was still functional,
yeah, well,
Okay.
the army wants to get rid of it,
right?
and we put in a no-cost conveyance application.
But they want
use
it, they
for
want,
active
but
recreation.
they want, what do you call
Recreation.
it, recreation in there, but we can combine both.
The only reason they wanted recreation is because that was the way by which we can get it for free.
Yeah, But we can still do that.
You can do it.
You
it's-
can combine housing
You can't.
and a recreational center for whomever.
You can't under the terms of the advance. You can put housing.
You
there.
could probably negotiate somehow.
Yeah, you can put housing there, you just have to pay the government for it.
Okay.
So,
But
That's-
Mike has a
that's-
plan. You move recreation there and then free up.
And
See,
free up
you're out-
something else,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, that's right next to the train station. I mean, that'd be a
Yeah.
great
That would
place to
be
put some
great
housing,
place to
right?
put housing, Yeah,
So,
Yes.
central to downtown.
As soon as I moved to
Near-
Fairfield, my first thing was that building. And I just thought, I told you about it before, be a teen center. A functioning teen center, not a hangout.
We were gonna put a pool there, I thought. weren't we? That was part of the plan.
Well,
we had proposed housing, as you recall.
Yeah,
I
and that got
want-
shot down.
I just always thought that and I'm sorry, but we need a teen center in Fairfield.
Mhm.
Okay, because the downtown is getting overrun,
Well, we can put a teen center in Turner Reserve, for sure.
right?
It is hard to keep a teen center going.
Well, it's not. Westport's had one forever,
well, yeah.
and they do a wonderful job. I'm born and raised in Westport, so I know the center. They do an amazing job. They get the kids that are musically inclined, they let them perform. They do classes. My thought, I did one for Norwalk.
Anything
I
else?
did a thing for Norwalk, where
Just
the
if you
kids
wanna
had
wade into
classes,
the
where they
pending bills
met
up
with
at the state.
Oh, I
people
want to just
that
mention.
help them
all
get
that.
jobs,
Yeah.
fill out college applications, all
Opportunity.
kinds of stuff.
Provide testimony. if you want.
So you can keep it going.
But it takes a lot of work. Yeah.
You get government grants.
Okay,
You-
so let me just wrap up. We've only got one other quick, well, not so quick thing. I just want to mention that Mark had sent out some information. There's 3 bills floating around. HB 5204, which is a study needs and a fair share allocation. And there's testimony can be provided tomorrow at the hearing. There's HB 5429, which is a
Act concerning transit-oriented development.
transit-oriented design, yes. Which would allow up to 15 apartments per acre, and I think we're already above that in.
Yeah, the issue is how it's written.
Yeah.
You know, there's a couple of issues. One is that it requires those to be approved as of right.
Mhm.
And the second is that it doesn't make allowances for other uses. They say that they would want to encourage mixed use. But it really requires 100% to be eligible for 15 units per acre, which would, you know, we have commercial areas in our downtown. We'd like to keep those. So we don't want to create just a housing development downtown, for example. So there's some concerns as to how it's written. It's not exactly as it was characterized to me. So
Are you gonna attend that?
on Monday, I don't know if I'm going to attend it. but
No,
there
the
may
hearing
be,
tomorrow. Is it tomorrow, Steve?
There's a hearing tomorrow,
There's a
but that's on
hearing
the
tomorrow.
needs assessment and fair
That's the
share.
fair
share.
I don't know if we're gonna, I don't know if I have the stomach to sit through the entire thing, because I have other things to do, but we did. You know, I did write some suggestions for Brenda to submit as part of the other
Okay.
bill, which was the study to look at 830G.
Yeah,
I
she
was,
did it. That was a good thing.
I was,
That's good.
you know, it was, I did tune in a little bit to that hearing, and, you know, it just struck me a little ironic, we can't even have a study to look at 830G to determine whether or not that in and of itself, a study was an assault on 830G, which I
Yeah.
found a little bit
Yeah.
too much.
So you don't have the time I have when I'm at work, so I just,
Well,
you know that I sat
if-
through 4 of those hearings from start to finish. Please kill me.
I was waiting for, when I was at 4:30, I was waiting for another meeting to start. I did tune in and heard some of the testimony. It was driving me nuts, so. We did submit some
So
testimony,
that was the third one, SB 169, which was last week.
correct.
Right.
So we'll hear more about all of these over the coming.
But I
weeks
just
and
wanted to
months.
keep you guys posted. I know that the planning and zoning staff also sent that to the planning and zoning commission. Had some, you know, similar concerns. Again, well, intention in terms of the overall thought, and again, we do stuff along the lines of TOD. But, you know, the actual way the bill is written is, it's problematic.
Well, I'll be watching it, so I'll let you know what I think.
Thank you.
I have my concerns about the fair share allocation.
I have my concerns
Yeah.
about that as well. Yeah.
That's the one I'm really gonna watch tomorrow.
Yeah, so, okay.
All right, well, I have a long list of stuff to send to all of you, so thank you all that were able to tune in.
And hope to see you on Monday night.
I'll be there on Monday.
Good, super.
I'll be
Thank
there
you.
on Monday too.
Will you be sending out a Zoom link? I can't make it in person.
Yes, there will be, there is a Zoom link to the Outlook invite I sent earlier, so check that
Oh,
out.
good.
It should work.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, because I would like to be
Thanks,
there.
Okay,
Oh, I see it now. Thank you. I got it.
Second.
and we'll call the meeting closed.
Yep, we are adjourned at 8:10. We'll see you Monday.
All right.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.